All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Saturday, February 1st, right here on your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns on All In Horns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson. This is brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. We want to encourage everybody to like, share, and subscribe. I know we're only 30 seconds into this video, but if you've made it this far, please subscribe to the channel and support us. And we appreciate all the support that we can possibly get. And as February comes closer, I'm going to give a little bit of free advertisement here, Jake, if you don't mind. Presley Boutique. Hey, your girl is going to want some great clothes, some great shoes, some great apparel. Go to PresleyBoutique.com, and that is my mom's shop. Shout out, Mom. Appreciate all the love and support that you give the channel as well. But yeah. Go on the website and order online, or if you are within the Salado, Temple, Belton area, you can go to the store as well. They're located in Salado, Texas. But Presley Boutique, great Valentine's gifts as we are approaching February. I don't want all the guys out there to forget that we're only 13 days away while you're listening to this, 13 days away from February or from Valentine's Day. So again, I got your back. Jake's got your back. He's married. I'm in a very serious relationship. So Valentine's Day has to be solved. Just letting y'all know, Presley Boutique is the way to go. So free advertisement. She is not advertising. She's not a sponsor of the show. Just going to try to give that a quick shout out before we get going here tonight.
Don't go to Walgreens and get a last second box of chocolates for your girl. That's not the right move, fellas.
They also know. They know whenever you get those little pre-made packages from Walmart or Walgreens or whatever, they're like, okay, he realized that today was Valentine's Day, and that's the only reason why he got this gift for me.
That last second 1-800-Flowers to the office with the scribbled note that's like, love so-and-so. It's the 24-hour, you paid way too much money for these crappy flowers.
Correct.
Yeah. Better to spend that money on some nice clothes that will show more thought and care and probably make your Valentine's evening a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. That's all we're here for, is the evening of Valentine's Day will be so much better. Anyway, Jake, let's go ahead and get started with the episode today. We're going to be talking very briefly on this Saturday episode, Arch Manning and the pressure that he is under as the Texas Longhorn quarterback coming in to the 2025 season. How does it compare to previous quarterbacks? Colt McCoy following Vince Young. Vince Young himself having a perfect quarterback rating as his recruiting and the number one overall player in his recruiting class, coming in as a starting quarterback for the University of Texas, who hasn't won a national championship in however long the drought was, and coming in and winning a national championship for Texas. And so we'll talk about the Arch Manning pressure, and is it fair to put that pressure on a player like Arch Manning? We'll give a quick preview as well for the LSU basketball game coming up for the Texas men's game as they get set to play LSU today. And they will, following the loss to Ole Miss after winning 2 straight against ranked opponents, they failed to Ole Miss, and now they look to get back in the winning category against LSU later on this afternoon. And Jake, not this weekend. Sorry, I was gonna say give a quick Super Bowl preview. We'll get into that next week. But anyway,
Pro Bowl preview.
yeah, maybe Pro Bowl preview that no one's gonna watch. Maybe a little bit on the Senior Bowl, just briefly about Texas players and how they've done and the amount of players that have actually sitting. Really, all players are sitting out, kind of nursing some injuries outside of Barron Sorrell. So with all that being said, let's get into the episode. Jake, first of all, how are you doing? Have you recovered from the Ole Miss game? Looking forward to the LSU game, and where are you at with Texas men's basketball right now?
Kind of in a similar spot I was Wednesday. A lot more hopeful than I was, a few weeks ago. For me right now, it's the nervousness of, okay, you've had a bunch of games where you weren't necessarily expected to win, and the nerves going into those types of games, especially in a regular season, are a lot less than when you're playing a team that you should absolutely beat.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel, is like, okay, you started to play better basketball. You beat some ranked teams. You lost a close game on the road that you definitely had a chance to win. If you go and drop a game to LSU, none of what you've done in the last few weeks matters. And so the team needs to view it as a must win. And if they can win these next 2 games, I'll be feeling really, really good about Texas basketball. Just because you get to 500 in conference play.
Right.
I would assume that means they're still playing a better looking brand of basketball than they were. Hopefully Weaver comes back. And then, things can kind of start getting rolling here for this last month of the season. So a little bit nervous. I'm over the Ole Miss game. It was a tough road conference loss. It happens.
Yeah.
Texas isn't a national championship contending basketball team this year. They're a team that I hope continues to play better basketball, gets hot at the right time, and can make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, because deep runs in the NCAA tournament feel really good. It's not all about winning a national title. A Sweet 16 run, an Elite 8 run.
Okay.
Those feel, for me, if you're in the Texas basketball is not a program where Elite 8 is the expectation of success. They're just not. They've never won a championship. They've never been to a championship. They've been to Final Fours. So to me, making it to the final 16 teams in the country for Texas right now, that's
success.
Yeah, and maybe success isn't the right word. It's a good season. Good season.
Is that exceeding expectations for this year's team? Maybe not beginning of the season, but where the lowest point of where this season was. If I had told you Sweet 16 this year is guaranteed, you would take that in a heartbeat, would you not?
Oh yeah, I would have signed off on the letter and been like, "You're only making it to the Sweet 16." Well, I didn't have them making the tournament, so
right. Yeah.
about a month ago.
And that's kind of where I'm at with this team. Is same boat as you. Can you end the regular season hot? Can you get into the SEC tournament and make a little bit of noise in the SEC conference tournament, and then go from there? If you manage to make it into the round of 16, if you make a Sweet 16 appearance, not a Sweet 16 win, but if you even make a Sweet 16 appearance, that's a win for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, that to me would be a successful season this year.
It would exceed my expectations, not going at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, I have kind of where this Texas Longhorn basketball program has been the last couple of seasons and where they are now. I would say this has been a huge disappointment as in terms of going into this season. But now that I've seen the lowest point of where this season possibly could end and where I see where this team could possibly end up when it's all said and done, I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic at this point.
Yeah, especially since there's just fatal flaws for this team that, especially at the center, the big man position, that aren't going to allow them to make a significantly deep run, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's impossible. I mean, they have talent that if your scores get hot and they're just scoring a bunch of points every game, it doesn't really matter if you have a big man or not. And that is possible. It's not impossible for sure. But yeah, I mean, I definitely feel a lot more hopeful. I'm just kind of ready to get these next 2 games over with, because that will tell me these aren't 2 games where it's like, okay, you got a chance to take down a really good team. These are 2 games you need to win. You're a better basketball team. And if you don't win them, the tone from us is going to change dramatically.
Right. No, I 100% agree. Well, let's go ahead and get into the episode, Jake. We wanted to be a little bit shorter of an episode. That's probably our Texas men's basketball talk. We'll get into the LSU game, kind of predictions going into it before the game tips off here shortly. But Arch Manning pressure, Jake, we want to talk about that briefly. First of all, what is the pressure, the expectations going in with Arch Manning for you personally? What you think they should be as a fan base and what you think they're going to be as a fan base, and is that fair or not?
None of what it should be matters, to be honest. To me, the expectation going in next season is this team's probably not going to be quite as good as the last 2 years. You're replacing almost your entire offensive line. You are replacing a lot of production at wide receiver. Running back position is going to see some changes more than likely. You still have Wisner, you still have the guys, and it should improve. But still, with essentially a fully new offensive line, a new quarterback, mostly new wide receivers, a somewhat makeshift put together defensive tackle position. I still think that position could be good, but it's probably not going to be as good as last year's. Other positions on the defense, I'm very excited about. Corner, that's another position where it's going to be okay. How do you replace Barron? You expect Muhammad to be a first cornerback this year for sure. He showed during pretty much the whole regular season last year. He looked that part.
Are we
It
going
was
to
really
see
the
Gilbo
playoffs.
move outside maybe a little bit?
I think if they're confident enough in some of these guys that they could play at that star position, yes. I think it'll depend on how cross training potentially Jelani McDonald goes, how Jordan Johnson Rebel looks there. You have some names there that have shown flashes that I know they're high on that hopefully you can get to play there because that's the toughest position on the defense to play, for my understanding, is that star position for this Texas defense. And they say Gilbo, much like Barron, is probably a better corner than he is a star position. He's pretty good at the star position this year. And so if you are able to move him into the outside, I think it would open a lot of things up for the defense. So hopefully that's the case. But to me, there's a lot more unknowns going into this season. With that said, none of what I just said matters. None of it. Absolute. Texas should probably be in that 10 to 15 range to start the year next year. They're going to be in the 1 to 2 range to start the year next year. The expectations are going to be absurdly high. Anything less than a Heisman caliber season from Arch Manning, you will have all of Twitter calling him a bust. And I'm not necessarily saying Longhorn fans will be like that because I think they'll have a longer leash for Manning than they did for Ewers.
You think?
Just because he's Arch Manning and they'll go, it's his first year starting. I think you forget how long the leash was for Ewers from some of the fans his first year.
Maybe. I think some Longhorn fans, some, not all, are completely delusional and off base.
Yes.
And just absurdly high expectations year in and year out. And if Arch Manning doesn't meet those expectations very soon next season into his QB1 career as a Texas Longhorn, I'm not saying they're going to be calling for Trey Owens. I'm just saying they're going to
call for Sark's job. That's what they'll go to.
They'll say
because you don't have the Arch as a backup. It'll be okay. Clearly Sark, but these are the same fans who are saying to fire Sark right now and go hire Dan Lanning. Like
true.
Also true. Those fans are so
off base,
meaningless to me. Like if I scroll through your profile and it's just last season, anything less than national championship is a failure of a season, fire the coach. Like I'm immediately going to ignore you because you don't know what you're talking about. And there's just no point. There's no point conversating with those types of fans. Cause A, they're not listening to this podcast. B, you're not going to be able to change their mind. And C, if you can't enjoy a season where your team is finishing top 4 out of 130 plus teams, you should not be a sports fan.
Jake, what is your expectation for Arch Manning next year? Arch Manning, not the team, Arch Manning.
To be really good. I mean, I think I don't know if he's going to reach these expectations of people year one.
Is it possible? Is it possible that he reaches expectations that are set?
Yeah, I don't think anything's possible right now. He has shown the flashes of being that quarterback. I mean, he kind of ULM, right? You kind of had glimpses of greatness, and then you had glimpses of, okay, he's still learning.
Mm-hmm.
Then against Mississippi State, we're like, okay, you need the team to kind of pick him up a little bit. And no, the team was awful against Mississippi State for large portions of the game. And Arch Manning carried the team. And
Mississippi State, that's a team, Jake, that people forget or maybe have overlooked that they played better towards the end of the season. And they were competitive in a lot of SEC games.
They were a scrappy team.
They didn't win them, but they were competitive in them. And I mean, Texas beat them by what, 2-3 possessions fairly handedly with Arch Manning.
That game was over after the start of the third quarter because you had the just wild swing of momentum where Texas was starting slow. Then they got the the touchdown drive right before half, then got the ball, then scored, and then the game was essentially over.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, could Arch Manning just go out and win a Heisman next year? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I think that's going to happen? No. I think he'll end up having what to some fans will be a bust of a season or whatever, or from especially like national talking heads.
Yeah.
But to any fans with realistic expectations, I think it'll be like, yeah, he looks every bit of the part. Now we're going to have him for another year. And now it's 2026 is where, to me, after the season, I'll be sitting there going the same thing I have said about 2026 from the start. They are winning it. The day the 2025 season ends, whenever that is, I will sit on this podcast and I feel like I will be saying they're winning a national title next year, because I have been saying that. And I don't see Arch having a bad year to where my mind will change on that.
And that will be time. That'll be time for Sark, for it all to come together, for enough of the pieces to be kind of put in place. And then you've got Arch Manning coming in for his second season as a starting quarterback to lead this Texas Longhorn team back to a national championship victory. I also agree with you, Jake. I think Arch Manning is going to put up numbers next year and the caliber of play that is going to put him in a Heisman caliber season. Those are high expectations. I just think that's what he's going to do. If he doesn't do that, am I going to be the fan that's going to be, oh, he's a bust, he's not anywhere where he lives up to? No, because I know my expectations in my own brain are different than what reality is. I have expectations in my own head, but I also know how football works. I know how the college football game operates, and it's not always how you always picture it in your brain, or things don't always live up to those expectations, and expectations is the root of all evil. I completely understand that. However, I do think Arch Manning, from what I've seen, even going 2 years ago, whenever he got glimpses in Texas Tech and he got glimpses of brief playing time 2 seasons ago, going into this season, from what I saw against UTSA, what I saw against Mississippi State, what I saw against Texas A&M, what I've seen in the playoffs, in the brief moments that he's played, he's capable of not only winning a Heisman, but bringing Texas a national championship. Is it in 2025? I don't know. But is he a top NFL prospect? Absolutely. Is he a guy that can change the landscape of college football and be remembered as one of the greatest college football players of all time? Absolutely. Can he go in the likes of Colt McCoy and Vince Young as all-time greats? Absolutely. He can do all of those things. If he doesn't, will I be slightly disappointed? Maybe. But I also know how football works, and I'm not going to just be like, oh, he's a bust, he's not a good football player. He's going to be a good football player throughout his career at Texas.
Yeah, my expectation, like what I expect him to be, is look like a top 5 quarterback in college football next year, which is really high expectations.
It's great.
But you have people who are, if he is not the best college football quarterback next year, you'll have people who are saying he failed. And you're always going to have that, and I'm going to ignore that, because I will say I think the numbers are going to be crazy.
Yeah.
But the problem with the thing about football is you have one bad game and you lose. No one gives a damn.
So, Jake, with this pressure, let's talk about the pressure side of things. How do you think, A, he handles the pressure? B, do you think the pressure is fair? And where does it line up kind of in Texas college, in Texas football or Texas quarterback lore, whether that be Vince Young, whether that be Colt McCoy, whether that be whoever it is, insert name of the most pressure on a Texas quarterback? Is that fair? And how do you think he handles that?
No, it's not fair, because his last name, it's not. The amount of pressure that's on that kid is unreal. Yeah, I mean, I think he has the most pressure a Texas quarterback has ever had going into the season, because he has only started a couple games. He's not played a ton of football yet at the college level, and the expectations are national championship and Heisman.
Yeah,
that's unreal.
Yeah.
The Arch Mania talk after everyone wanting Quinn bench during the year, national talking heads talking about, he should be the starter right now. And then if he steps in, he's just not instantly incredible. People are going to come down on him. Will it affect him? No. I just think he has the right mental. I don't think he cares about social media. I don't think he's looking at it. You look at him just being a student at Texas, and he looks like he's enjoying being a college student. He's at the Texas A&M basketball game, recording the last shot, jumping up and down, going crazy when they win by a buzzer. I think
He's just
most people who meet him, he's just a college student that's
Yeah.
having fun, that just happens to be a Manning and just happens to be the starter. With that said, I think he's the undoubted leader of this program now. And I do think sitting behind Quinn for a couple years is really beneficial because Quinn learned how to become a leader. And I don't think Arch has to learn how to become a leader
I
now.
think he just is.
I think he's a little bit more of a natural leader than Quinn to begin with, but I think Quinn had become within the program. He was undoubtedly the leader of last year's team. The team made that obvious. The players made that obvious. And I think for Arch to probably see that leadership growth from Quinn probably taught him a lot of really valuable lessons to better prepare him for everything that comes with being the starting Texas quarterback that's not on the field. Because there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot more than just playing on the field when it comes to being the starting quarterback of a program like Texas. And I think he is in a great spot to be able to step into that and undoubtedly is the leader of this program now. The Texas Football X account has made that obvious by posting day one, and you have the picture of Arch just yelling. And then you got Michael Taff as well.
I wanted to bring that picture up to you. Excitement level when I saw that post, I immediately was
10.
like,
A 10. A 10.
A 10. Can we see? Can we get into week one now? Dude, I'm so ready. I'm already so ready. Like I don't know if I've said this to you year after year after year. And it really started after Sark's 5-7 season, going into the Quinn Ewers' first year as a starter. And I said, I can't wait for this year. After that year, Jake, this is a playoff contending team. We can win the Big 12 in our final year in the Big 12. And then after that, it was, Jake, I think we can win the SEC championship. And now going into this year, we've got Arch Manning, and we could possibly be a national championship contending team. It seems as though to me, and maybe I'm just a fan like everybody else, my excitement level year after year has just stayed here, where it used to be, oh boy, what are we going to get out of this next year's team? Who is the quarterback even going to be? Is it going to be a Hudson Card? Is it going to be Casey Thompson? Who is going to even lead the team this year? And oh boy, it's going to be rough. The level of excitement that I have for this program is unmatched to anything that I've seen, that I've felt really since the Colt McCoy, Vince Young days with Mac Brown. And I'm just so excited to see where this program ends up 2, 3, 4 years from now, because I do think within 5 years, this is a national championship winning team, maybe even within 2 years.
Within 2026, they're winning. If they win next year, they're winning 2 in a row. Because I think Arch is going to play more than one season regardless of what happens next year. And I will go ahead and say this.
That was my next question. Where do you think what's his longevity with this program?
I think at least 2 more years, and I don't think 3 is impossible. I think without a doubt 2 more. I don't think there's any question of 2 more. Unless he wins a Heisman and a national title, and I still think there's a chance he would come back.
The Manning family and himself, he's gone on record. Now, again, things change, obviously. If he's going to be projected as the number 1 overall pick and going into the 2026 season and he wins a Heisman, he wins a national championship, I'd be shocked if he came back and played another year. With that all being said, I wouldn't be shocked. You don't think so? I do think that this, if all things kind of just play out the way you and I expected, doesn't win a Heisman, doesn't win a national championship in 2025, 2026 is really his big year to do all those types of things. I do think that if his draft stock is even first round caliber guy, which I'm pretty sure he's already a first round projected in the 2026 draft, he will stay because he came to Texas to develop to be a pro style quarterback under Steve Sarkisian. And I think that takes 2 years for him to be the starting quarterback, not of college experience, not in the system, not as a backup, starting minutes, starting role on the team as a leader, kind of just the maturation process of becoming a starting quarterback to prepare yourself for the NFL. I do think that takes 2 years, and I think he wants that under Steve Sarkisian. I think the Manning family wants that under Steve Sarkisian as well.
Yeah, the Manning family has pretty much already said that he's going to play more than 1 year as a starter. I don't think it's impossible he plays 3 more. I think 2 is the most likely scenario with how I see things ending up. But yeah, I mean, I think he's playing 2 years for sure. And I think he'll be projected as a first rounder if he comes out next year. All the national media people are going to say he's coming out all year long, just like they've said he was going to transfer every single year. And then he is going to come back because the Mannings operate differently. They operate with how they think is the best to set them up for a long NFL career. Eli and Peyton stayed past what people expected them to, and I fully expect Arch to. And real quick, just going back, because I know we're about to wrap up. I'm just saying it now. Next year, week 1 is the most hyped up week 1 matchup in Texas football history. And I don't think it's particularly close.
No, I agree. Jake, let's go ahead and wrap up the show like you just kind of segued to, like you foreshadowed with Texas LSU men's basketball game tipping off today. And that game will be later on this evening, 5 o'clock on SEC Network. Texas at 14-7, 3-5 in conference play, taking on LSU 12-8, 1-6 in conference play. Texas, by all accounts, should win this game. However, going to LSU, playing in Baton Rouge. Quick predictions, quick thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I think this is a game where Texas gets a little bit more of a comfortable win. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a blowout. But I think Texas will win by 10. I think they'll get a double-digit win. Maybe I think it'll be close for portions of the game, just because that's how a lot of these
Texas
SEC
capable
games
of just blowing teams out in the SEC.
I think they are capable of blowing out an LSU, but it's on the road. I'm sure the crowd will be pumped up. It's a weekend. It's Texas. Everyone hates Texas. But I do like Texas to win this game. And I think it'll end up being a win that's they feel in control for a lot of the second half. It'll be a close first half, maybe like a 2-3 point lead for Texas or close to tied. Then I think they'll pull away middle of the second half and end up being a comfortable last 10 minutes or so.
74-68, Texas wins this game. And I think it'll be a 6-8 point game, something along those lines for Texas. I do think Texas wins. And I think that they are going to be in a situation where LSU is fouling them at the end of the game. Texas is going to make some big free throws. They're going to make a couple big stops on defense, and they're going to extend this lead out. I do think it's going to be close, probably within about the 5 to 10 minute mark of the game, in the second half of the game, where Texas might even lose the lead, and LSU comes up and takes the lead by a point or two. But I think Texas ends up finishing this thing out. By all accounts, Texas is the better team, whether you look at it statistically, record-wise, whatever aspect you want to look at this game. Texas is favored in this game. Texas should win this game, and I think that's what's going to happen later on this evening.
Yeah, I was trying to pull up just real quick what the line is on that game. It should be up to now.
It should be up by now, but I haven't seen it on ESPN. Maybe on another sports on a sports book, it might be up, but it's not on ESPN. So if you're looking on ESPN, I can't find anything.
I just pulled up on the Vegas Insider. It looks like Texas opens up as 7.5 point favorites.
So I was about right. I said an 8-point win. So me personally, I'd take that spread. I'd take Texas to win, and I'd take Texas to cover. I'm going to say an 8-point win for Texas.
Yeah, I picked Texas to cover against Ole Miss. Actually, I think it was like a 6.5 point spread, and I was like, that's a lot of points.
They did cover, so
and they did cover. I didn't bet the money line just because I was like, that's a little too fanny. I was like, I feel like I really like the 6.5 points, and I could see them losing a close game. But I think they're either going to lose a close game or win a close game, and
that's
it's going to be a close game either
betting
way.
on your part, Jake.
I try to separate emotions from betting. And typically, if it's a really really big game, I don't bet it. If Texas is in it.
Hey, that's great discipline as a sports fan and sports betting. Well, that's going to do it for our episode today. I know we didn't really get too much into LSU Texas, but I mean, it is what it is at this point in the season. So for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. Again, like, share, subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel. We are where all podcasts can be heard, whether that be Spotify or whatever your preferred listening device is through podcast. We are there for you. And then also on YouTube, where you can watch us Tuesday through Saturday, dropping episodes at noon. Your daily fix for all things Texas Longhorns right here on All In Horns, brought to you by Rogue Sports Network. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, for Jake Jimerson, I'm Tanner Carlson. Hook 'em!
All in Sports Network. We love sports.